Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I talk with industry leaders about marketing mindset and business growth. This episode is brought to you by my own company, Foster Web Marketing. Foster Web Marketing is dedicated to providing cutting-edge, highly customizable websites, marketing, video, and strategic solutions specifically designed for law firms, medical practices, and other professional service businesses. Our award-winning web technology and marketing system sets us apart from everyone else. Please visit our website at fosterwebmarketing.com if you want to know more. But today is about Matt Kaiser. Matt, my friend, is an international sports lawyer who works with athletes and sports organizations worldwide on matters such as doping and misconduct, eligibility, team selection, and governance issues. Matt enjoys solving clients' problems and prides himself on the results he has gotten for them domestically and internationally. He's been a full-time international sports attorney since 2017, and in that time has become an invaluable member of the Global Sports Advocates team. Their Foster Web Marketing website is globalsportsadvocates.com. Matt, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an honor. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, Matt. Well, I reached out to you. I was like, I would love to have you on the podcast because I am definitely interested in this because what inspired you to become an international sports law attorney?
Man, I mean, you can go back several years, starting in college. I knew, growing up, I was an athlete my whole life, but quickly realized that I wasn't going to be at the professional level anytime soon. So I kind of used my brain and overall knowledge of the sports industry and try to get involved with it through another path. Initially, it was with sports marketing. So I went to undergrad for, and then kind of transitioned in law school to the legal side of sports law and went abroad, did a program, a master's program in Spain. And through that, that's how I ended up where I am today and representing athletes from around the world, doing doping, kind of Olympic sphere legal issues that come about. So it's been quite a journey.
What was your sport?
I played soccer and baseball.
Okay, very good. So what makes your practice unique?
I think, well, I mean, the industry itself is quite a niche industry representing athletes who test positive for prohibited substances, who otherwise get in trouble with the either NCAA regulations, sporting regulations, you name it. It's not the general civil or criminal law that you see on television. It's the behind the scenes, what makes them eligible or ineligible to compete in a specific sport and pursue their profession. So I think that in of itself makes it a unique field that we're in. But I think what mostly differentiates our firm from others is just the time and dedication that we give our clients on every matter. We're not passing off work to lowly interns. We don't even have interns full time. It's just my boss and I.
Yeah, and you're hiring somebody. You're hiring.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully grow little by little. Going to bring on another individual pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, Paul Green and I are trying to do our best to service as many clients as possible, give them the best experience.
Not trying, you are doing it.
We are. Yeah, I think we're pretty successful. I think that definitely differentiates us from other firms that dabble in this industry.
So could you tell me a little bit about some of your biggest victories that you've achieved in your practice?
Sure. I mean, again, the way Paul and I work together, it's definitely a collaborative team effort from, the get-go. Whatever client, whoever we're dealing with, be it some amateur athlete all the way to the top tier professional athletes, we're delving in pretty deep to figure out in cases of anti-doping rule violations, where the prohibited substance came from. I mean, believe it or not, I know it's hard for many people out there to think that an individual doesn't know how they tested positive, but most of the cases that we do get, they are, athletes are pretty clueless as to how it ended up in their system. So that's
Right.
that's our number one job whenever we do get
Well, isn't
that.
there a lot of like miscues and misdiagnosis, or I'm sure I'm not using the right nomenclature.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the supplement world, it's
Right.
unregulated by anyone. And so there's a lot of mislabeling, there's contaminated products everywhere. Um, even, and I think that goes to our biggest wins include more environmental contamination. So we've been able to prove and get athletes a no fault, meaning, they're not serving any ban by proving that it came from either a non-organic steak that they had the night before, kissing some lady of the night before,
Wow.
or having sex with a boyfriend who has been taking a prohibited substance. So it's been honestly, getting into the legal field, I thought all I'm going to do is just law related stuff. And I've probably learned more about biology and pharmacokinetics
Right.
and overall science than I actually ever thought I would, try to be involved with after AP bio in high school. So it definitely keeps you on your toes and it keeps it interesting for sure.
That's fascinating. And of course, like the biggest name that comes to mind, Lance Armstrong about this, right? Like that's the what are your thoughts on that whole thing? Like, what are your
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
there?
his case is quite unique in that he's never tested positive. So it was more of whistleblowers announcing and revealing to USADA that, hey, there is stuff behind the scenes, and this is the process that was in place to have him go under the radar and undetected. So I mean, yeah, I think the Lance Armstrong issue was certainly the focal point of why USADA has so much authority and power. I mean, this even goes back further. The start of the World Anti-Doping Code goes back to the Festina affair, back for the Tour de France 99, I think,
Hmm.
98. And again, cycling has a prevalence of doping athletes. So it was that moment that spawned the development of a need to have a more regulated anti-doping system in place for all these athletes. And then Lance Armstrong certainly highlighted it, and just revealed that, even people who you think, you're constantly rooting for and want to see succeed, they can have a dark side too. And unfortunately, um, do some pretty shady stuff in the
It's a
background.
shame, 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 shame.
Yeah, quite devastating.
Yeah, totally devastating, man. So, how do you stay up to date on changes in international sports laws and regulations?
Well, so the World Anti-Doping Code is revised once every 6 years. So as soon as the new version gets published, which came out in 2021, a couple of years, about 2 years later, so right about now, they'll start making recommendations and suggestions of how to fix it for 2027. And you constantly have to be on top of the news articles that WADA is publishing. Generally, more generally speaking, you're on social media constantly to get the highlights of people testing positive, or the CAS website, Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is the Supreme Court of these types of arbitration, sports arbitration cases, and constantly learning about what the new decisions are, who's ruling on what legal standards, just generally reading as much as possible so that you're
And you
constantly
said
on
it
top.
earlier, like, but it's not just the law, it's also biology you got to stay
Yeah.
on top of, right?
So yeah, there's tons of new scientific articles coming out, whether or not, certain substances can be detected in hair and fingernail samples. So
Wow.
that affects how we go about with our cases. Do we get those humans specimens or features tested. We work with a laboratory in France to make sure that our athletes aren't lying to us and that they aren't intentionally ingesting these substances. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to figuring out, based on the new science that is coming out, when is the window of ingestion period that we're looking at, and then it helps to narrow down what the athlete would have ingested and when to test positive. So it definitely involves a lot of research and a lot of reading just to stay on top of all aspects of our representation.
And so, how does an athlete work with you, Matt? Like, how does somebody work with GSA?
Sure. So when they reach out to us, we do an initial intake to get an idea of what exactly the facts are from what they remember. Most of the time is, hey, I tested positive for XYZ substance. I don't know how it ended up in my system. So from that point, we have them do a log, not only of supplements that they've taken, but potentially food log if it's a certain specific prohibited substance that they tested positive for. And we kind of work from that and see what potentially is a potential source of the prohibited substance, when they would have ingested it. Does it line up? And we do our own scientific research. Does it line up with what they're saying at the levels that they're testing positive from when they ingested it? Does that timeline match what the science is telling us? And so, we're constantly working with experts from around the world, and making sure that the international testing standards were followed, the collection procedures were followed, and potentially they could impact the levels that we're seeing in an athlete's urine as well. So it is an all-consuming process that draws from multiple areas, be it science or just regulatory standards that have to be followed. But we're constantly pulling at strings and working with the athlete throughout it, because they're coming at a time when their whole life is up in the air. They've worked so hard to get to this point, be a professional or even high level of amateurism, and now they're being suspended or facing a 2 to 4 year suspension, which is utterly devastating and potentially even career ending. So we do our best to console them and let them know that we're defending them, but it is a pretty long, arduous process that we have to go through to make sure we are able to defend them properly.
Yeah, I mean, like most of your clients come to you, they got a problem. Like, oh shit, I got just busted, right? I
Yeah, no one calls us up to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" It's more
Right,
of,
right, right. Yeah, nobody calls the lawyer and like, how you doing? Um, but that's what I want to talk about. Is there should athletes? How could you help them prepare for this? Like, is there advice you can give them to like? Is there things that they should stay away from, or any kind of?
sure. Yeah, I mean, so we've worked with your company, Foster Web Marketing, quite a while now, and we've had, I think, pretty successful and informative articles posted on
Uh-huh.
our website that help and try to be proactive in helping athletes stay away from testing positive, or, God forbid they do test positive, what are the initial first steps that they should be taking to make sure evidence is preserved, we can help them. The list goes on, but definitely on our website, there's quite a number of helpful articles that athletes should be reading to be better prepared. And the education out there is not always great, but I think based on our experience, we've been able to provide practical articles that athletes should be able to be at least better, or more cautious about how they interact and what they do. I mean, taking supplements, generally speaking, is probably the riskiest thing you could be doing to potentially test positive, given how
Just
unregulated.
taking supplement, going to Amazon and getting supplements from Amazon.
Exactly. Yep. They don't even have to be black market, supplements. You can get them from
You never
anywhere and
know, right?
they'll potentially test positive. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's probably how we can best protect athletes, is making sure they buy NSF certified for sport supplements. Those are the ones that are tested and ensure that they're not containing a prohibited substance.
Well, okay, so that website, everybody, is globalsportsadvocates.com. And there's a ton of content out there that is very helpful to you as an athlete to get more information about what to do and to prepare. Like you want to be preventative. You don't want to like find yourself, oh crap, I've tested positive. Like so go on there and defend yourself, get ready because you never know,
Yep,
right?
and we're like an insurance, policy.
Exactly.
You pay for us, and you hope to never use us, but we do our best. We care for athletes. We're definitely athlete focused in our law firm, and so we don't want to see and experience the devastation that we typically come across on a regular basis. So if we can save one athlete, it'd be well worth it.
So Matt, who are some of your mentors?
Man, I mean, going all the way back, you start with your parents. They are great professionals in their respective industries and have been very supportive in my life choices and wanting to pursue this and helping me get through college, law school, master's program, and just overall, building the right
That's great.
characteristics to be an ethical lawyer. I think that's huge in the industry. You can run into some slimy people that
Hmm.
you just, you know, it's uncomfortable to work with them. But as long as you have the right moral compass in place, you shouldn't fall foul and won't run into trouble. And then more on a professional side, I mean, clearly I've stayed with Paul Green and Global Sports Advocates for 6, 7 years now, and he's doing something right. But yeah, to his credit, I mean, I'm constantly learning, still learning new things of how to be a great lawyer like himself. And he's taught me that even if there is a 0.001% chance of winning the case, there's still a chance, and you can find that one slim corridor to run through and save the client. It's never over until it's actually over. So to his credit, he is a dog when it comes to doing research and finding solutions to athletes. And I think that's the thing that he's rubbed off on me, to be consistent and determined to find a solution. It isn't good enough to say, well, the rules say one thing. Yeah, they may say one thing, but you can argue something else, then find give your client a good outcome. So yeah, it's just those three people I would say are very important and
Yeah.
great mentors of who I've become today.
Is there any particular sport that is more problematic than others? We were
Well, I
talking
mean,
about cycling earlier, but is that
yeah, I mean, the stereotypical ones are cycling and then weightlifting, of course.
mhm,
But I would say the one that most people don't really appreciate it, but we get a lot of, is track and field.
track
And
and
I
field?
think that
Yep.
more statistically, you just have that many more athletes in the sport of track and field than elsewhere. WADA releases a report every year as to what their testing has revealed over the last year and a half, and most of them come from track and field. And so it's not intentional, for the most part, but just statistically they're going to be the ones that are testing positive most, because I think in
Is
total
that
only about
just because
1% of athletes.
there's more athletes in that?
Yeah, exactly. Because you have so many different disciplines within
Right.
track and field. So, 1%, I think, of all tests were positive. In every year, it's about 1%. So, just by numbers, you're going to hit that 1% more in the track and field area, just because there's more tests conducted there.
Very good. So you're an athlete. Now you're a lawyer. I'm sure you still are an athlete. I'm sure you still. Do you have any daily rituals that keep you going?
Yeah, I mean, I try to work out every day. In the mornings, I go to yoga a couple days a week, go to the weight room a couple days a week. I actually, have joined a swimming club for afternoons after work, and constantly am involved in intramural sports with some friends around here. You name it, I'll play it. And I
Great.
think recently I've been more into the newer discipline of swim running, and that involves pretty extensive and grueling day of swimming between islands or around islands and running through islands. So it can be it's
Oh,
a lot of
cool.
fun. I definitely recommend it, and I actually qualified for the World Championships for the 30 to 34 year olds for Team USA. So I'll be representing the U.S.
Hey,
uh,
good for you,
in
buddy.
Indonesia. Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a cool experience to get that email. So knock on wood, I stay healthy and make it to the finish
We'll
line.
sponsor you.
Thank you.
So what is that like? Is that like you run on the island and then you swim to the other island and then you run on the island and you swim? Is that it?
Yeah, each course is
Oh,
different.
cool.
The one in Maine has a bunch of islands connected, and you swim to three or four of them and run around different trails in the island. And so it's a cool experience. I have one in Texas where you do the Rio Grande River, Colorado River, sorry, and you're bouncing out all around a state park down there. So yeah, it's the terrain is different for each race, which makes it unique, but it's a cool experience for
Wow,
sure.
good for you, Matt. Good for you,
Thanks.
man. Wow, I wish I had done that. I'm 56 years old and never done anything like that. I mean, I was in the Marines. I did all kinds of crazy stuff, but I've never done anything like that in my youth.
I'm sure you could pick it up. There's still a spot for you out there.
You know, I should. I could do it. I mean, I'm in the
For
gym
sure.
every day myself, so I could do it. Today I got my boxing training. So,
Love it.
yeah, man. So, what is the craziest thing that you've ever done?
Craziest thing that we've ever done. Man, my friends and I in high school would definitely light up some crazy fireworks in our backyard. We have a sparkler bomb where we collect about 1,000 and light it off and see the flaming ball go up and smoke. So that's playing with pyrotechnics and stuff is where we got our thrill for
A
sure.
little dangerous there.
Yeah.
So, who are the colleagues that you respect most in your industry?
Well, besides, I mean, I think Paul
You said
Green,
Paul
my
Green, right?
boss, is, goes unsaid, but yeah, certainly he has a way of presenting himself professionally and personally to individuals that makes an instant connection with a lot of individuals. And I think helps sell, or at least with our position in any case, helps tell the story of the athlete really well. And our legal positioning, he's very reasonable. Outside of him, I mean, a lot of cast arbitrators who I've met along the way are really brilliant individuals who I have a lot of respect for because they're able to find solutions for whatever case that we're presenting to them. It may be a financial dispute, it may be a doping sanction, whatever the case in front of them, they have, other than a lot of experience, they have a lot of wisdom and great knowledge about the industry that they're able to assist the athlete and um, make a fair, what I think is a fair decision.
Matt, do you follow any podcasts?
Yeah, I have a couple ones
Yeah.
that I follow.
Do you mind sharing?
Sure. I mean, I follow the Jordan Harbinger show. I get my criminal court fix through Court Junkie. And then I follow the Daily, which is the New York Times podcast in the morning. And trying to think if there's anything else. Planet Money. So
It's
I
great.
just try to, keep my nose in everything and try to just constantly get new information because you never know when one piece of information can help you in a case. I mean, we had several issues with meat contamination that the COVID brought about because of unregulating the industry while everything was going, down, and slaughtering animals who were getting sick. So, I mean, we use a lot of the, I would say, national news in our cases when it's appropriate, but it can come in handy for sure.
I recommend you Tell Them You Mean Business by Jason Abraham. That's a podcast by one of my great friends and a client as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Check that podcast out. So what about any books that you could recommend for us? Favorite book?
Yeah, I mean, the Secret Race and Phil Knight's Shoe Dog are two books that I'm looking at my shelf right now that are really good. And one give about the secret race being the doping and cycling world, and then generally Shoe Dog, the birth of Nike and development. Other than that, I would say I'm a huge John Steinbeck fan, so I go to the classics whenever I can. So yeah, I mean, Tortilla Curtain is one of them. Grapes of Wrath, of course. But and then I'm reading one by Arthur Conan McDoyle on the Lost Island, I believe it's called. I'm trying to remember, but it's like a Jurassic Park, fantasy.
That is great,
story.
Man. That's good stuff. The classics.
Yep, exactly.
Well, Matt, it has been wonderful catching up with you and talking to you. And I appreciate so much what you're doing. And everybody, listen, you got an athlete that you know, make sure that you go to globalsportsadvocates.com and check them out, get information, talk to Matt. So they are not getting that, they don't, make a mistake, right?
Correct. You got it.
Matt,
we're here for you, for sure.
Thank you so much for being on the World of Marketing podcast today.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's been an honor, and I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being a client of Foster Web Marketing all these years. You are up and coming. You're already up and coming, and you're just going, man. And I love your energy. And like I said, we will sponsor you on your whatever you're going to do, buddy. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. We really appreciate all the work you guys have done for our website and help us grow. So thank you again.